Hello, it's Mr. Wood here. Welcome to this video all about euthanasia. This is part of the Theme B series we're doing from the RS AQA GCSE. Today we're thinking about what euthanasia is. We're going to think about when it might be desired. We're going to talk a little bit about different types of euthanasia, and we're also, hopefully by the end, all of us will be able to articulate different moral positions on the subject of euthanasia. What do you need to know? You need to know that euthanasia is when a decision is made to end a human's life early for compassionate reasons. Now, some Christians, they believe that because all life is sacred, that euthanasia is always wrong. Whereas others believe that euthanasia is the compassionate option in some circumstances. Let's have a think and let's see what you think too. Before we jump in today, just like my previous video on abortion, I just want to point out this is a sensitive topic and it's a controversial topic. And actually none of the views I share today necessarily reflect my own beliefs or the beliefs and stance of the institution that I work for. So euthanasia, what is it and why is it done? Well, euthanasia comes from two Greek words, eu meaning good and thanatos meaning death. So a euthanasia is a good death. A definition I like is this one. It's ending someone's life with compassion to end their suffering. And from this definition, we can kind of work out a little bit about why it might be done. So someone would be euthanized if they were suffering severely. Their life may be about to be cut short in a very, very painful way. They may be in constant pain. It might be that they feel and they feel their family feel and friends, the community around them, that for the life to continue on would do more harm than good. So we've looked at before this expression, the lesser of two evils. For many people, euthanasia might be the lesser of two evils. Yes, it is evil to end someone's life early. However, to let that life continue on would be a greater evil in some people's opinion. It's got a long history. It goes right back to Hippocrates. Hippocrates said that he would never prescribe drugs that would help someone end their life. And you may have heard of the Hippocratic Oath, which comes from this, which lots of doctors and nurses around the world take to say that I've got into medicine because I want to save lives and help people, not end lives. And so euthanasia, for many people, goes completely against the Hippocratic Oath. Later in history, in 1516, Thomas More defended euthanasia, calling it the last treatment option for doctors to give if the patient wanted it. It's a controversial topic, and just a quick Google or search on the web, you will see lots of different organisations and charities, some who campaign passionately for euthanasia to be legalised in the UK, and others to say it's not something that is good, it's not something that we want. It's a real controversial issue in that way, and you'll be able to see why people's views are so divided on it. If you look around the world, it has a different legal status in different countries. In the Netherlands and in Belgium, euthanasia is legal. Here's a recent article from The Guardian about actually in the Netherlands, they're broadening the rules so that more children would be able to access euthanasia if so desired. Whereas in the UK, it is illegal. And if you were to euthanize someone, you could be convicted of murder or manslaughter, and you could receive a lifetime prison sentence. So different types of euthanasia. I've got a couple of pictures here to help us think about this. Now, one type of euthanasia is what we call voluntary euthanasia. And the person, the patient, they choose it. They volunteer, voluntary. They volunteer for euthanasia. I want that. I'm choosing it for me. And another type is non-voluntary euthanasia. And this is when someone chooses euthanasia for a person, for a patient, because the patient is unable to choose it for themselves. For example, if they were in a coma, they would not be able to choose it. Someone else, say a doctor or a family member, might choose it for them. We can also look at euthanasia in terms of passive and active euthanasia. So active euthanasia, action is taken that is going to end the life. Whereas with passive euthanasia, support is withdrawn. So the things that are keeping someone alive are taken away. Now, for some people, they see a moral difference between the two. Some say, I wouldn't agree with active euthanasia because that's actively killing someone, but I would be okay with passive euthanasia if support is withdrawn. However, others would say that in both of these situations, you are making a choice which is going to end a person's life. And therefore, regardless of it being active or passive, both choices lead to the same outcome, and so morally they are the same. So let's have a go at looking at some questions here to help check your own understanding. Pause the video here, have a go at these questions, and then push play when you're ready to go. Okay, let's look at some answers. So, in your own words, what is euthanasia? Well, the definition I like is to end someone's life with compassion to end their suffering. Why might someone choose to be euthanized? Well, perhaps if they've had an accident that's left them unable to live the life they wanted to live. You'll find examples of the internet, people who have been paralyzed from the neck down, who used to love sport, etc., and they feel now they cannot go on. It might be that they have an illness or injury that they know is going to get worse and worse and worse until they die, and they want to end it now. Or perhaps they're losing control of their mind or their ability to make memories, and they don't want to have that experience of not recognizing family members, not remembering who they are or loved ones are. They don't want to go through that. They don't want to put their family through that. So perhaps they choose to end life early. There's a whole spectrum of different reasons. And again, if you do Google this, you'll learn all about that. Two countries where euthanasia is currently legal. You could have gone for Belgium, Netherlands. What is the maximum penalty for euthanizing someone in the UK? Well, you could be convicted of murder, which comes with a life prison sentence. What is the difference between voluntary and non-voluntary euthanasia? Well, voluntary euthanasia, the patient volunteers for it. They choose it. Whereas non-voluntary, it is chosen for them because they are unable to, for example, if they were in a coma. Some argue that passive euthanasia is not as bad as active euthanasia. And the thinking behind that is because you're not taking an action to end someone's life, and therefore it's not equatable to murder. However, others would say, well, they are the same thing because they have the same goal. They both are choices that end in the same ending, and therefore they are morally the same. Everyone should have the right to die if that is what they want, and that's completely down to your own opinion of that. I'd like to hear what you think. So there's lots of reasons why people in favour of euthanasia say that it should be allowed. Firstly, we see in the definition that it's done out of compassion. Christians would say, well, Jesus was compassionate. There's lots of accounts in the New Testament where Jesus was moved by compassion and did something out of love. And euthanasia should be a compassionate thing to do. It's also done to end suffering. And again, to look at Jesus as an example, Jesus ended suffering. He went around, he healed the man with leprosy, he healed the woman with a hemorrhage, he healed the paralyzed man. He was ending suffering, and therefore is this equatable to that? Could you say that euthanasia is ending suffering, therefore it's similar to what Jesus did? It's legal in other countries. Therefore, other groups of people and governments and leaders have decided that it's morally acceptable and even a good thing. So why not in the UK? Others would say that actually it's down to our own autonomy and we should be able to make decisions about our own bodies. Some religious people might talk about free will. God's given us free will to make our own decisions, and therefore if we want euthanasia, we should be able to choose it since it's our bodies and our decision. Using some key terms we've looked at before, if someone has a very low quality of life, please do watch my video on that if you haven't seen that yet, then maybe it's not truly a life, and therefore to end it wouldn't be murder, it wouldn't be breaking any rules because it wasn't a life, because the quality had got so low. If someone is unable to breathe for themselves, eat for themselves, drink for themselves, or make new memories, you could argue, is that really a life? And therefore, is it right to let that continue on? In the Bible, as part of the Beatitudes on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Blessed are the merciful." Another name for euthanasia is mercy killing. You are ending someone's suffering using mercy, which is a godly value to have. And as a controversial issue, we'll now look at the other side of the argument. Why do some people think that euthanasia is wrong and not acceptable? Well, firstly, Christians believe that humans are made in the image of God, Imago Dei, and if someone is an image bearer of God, it would be wrong to end that person's life early. In Psalm 139, the psalmist David writes, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made." So humans are made purposefully by God. And let's say someone is born with an illness that's going to get worse and they're going to slowly suffer over time. Perhaps that is what God planned for them, because he made all humans fearfully and wonderfully. Jesus, Christian's role model, did not avoid suffering. He went through the pain in Gethsemane. He went to the cross after being tortured. He went through loneliness. He did not avoid suffering. and nor did he instruct his followers to. So if the sole reason for euthanasia is just to avoid suffering, there's not a lot of biblical backing for that when you look at the example of how Jesus lived his life. Now, here's a thought for you, that maybe caring for someone in their last moments, as they do gradually go downhill, would be a very painful thing to go through, especially as it would be someone you love. But actually, by going through that process, we as humans, we grow and we appreciate life more, we appreciate our health more. So actually, to avoid all suffering and avoid those things might not be good for us as the human race in terms of our own character development. I often say that God is more concerned about our character than our comfort. And actually going through the process of being with a loved one who is slowly passing away and in pain may be good for our character and part of what God wants us to go through as human beings in community with one another. Doctors and nurses, as we've said, they take oaths to protect life. So who would do, if we legalized euthanasia, who would carry it out? Surely you'd want someone with medical expertise, but they've taken an oath to protect life, not to end it. The Bible clearly says, do not kill. It's the 6th commandment, do not kill. And finally, hospices provide an alternative to euthanasia that provide a space for someone to go and die with dignity. And therefore, euthanasia is not needed. So, final question. It's a longie. This would be a 12-marker equivalent in a GCSE exam. Have a go at this. Do push pause. I'll give it 10, 12 minutes. And then when you're ready, push play and we'll look at the answer. Or an answer. Okay, euthanasia should be legalized in the UK. So just very quickly, if you would say to agree, you might say, yes, it's compassionate. Yes, it's done to end suffering. Lots of people want it. There's lots of campaigners out there and famous people who are saying this is something that would be good. We euthanize animals, so why not euthanize humans? We do that out of love, so why not do that out of love? You could go into a scenario in this answer where you described a person, a hypothetical person who perhaps was losing their mind, losing their memory, losing their ability to move, and you could say how that would be a compassionate thing to do. On the other side, you could talk about humans being made in the image of God. You could talk about the sanctity of life, that all lives are precious and holy and sacred and given by God, and it would be wrong to end one early. You could talk about the benefits to the human race of living in community alongside each other's suffering. The word compassion literally means to join with someone in their suffering. And so to go through with someone in their last stages as they're suffering could be very, very good for the human race and an opportunity to show great love and deep relationship with one another. There's loads you could say about this. I'll hold it there for now. Your extension, if you did, is a good thing to do. Go and look at the hospice movement. Do you think it's a good alternative to euthanasia? That brings us to the end of the lesson. Just to head back there to our need to know, you need to know that euthanasia is when a decision is made to end a life early for compassionate reasons. Some Christians believe that because all life is sacred, that euthanasia is always wrong. Others believe it is compassionate. It's the compassionate option in some circumstances. Thank you for tuning in today. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. And good luck with your exam if you're taking it anytime soon.